we don't talk about it much. We talk about it from time to time on TYT, but we really do have a really deep-rooted culture of violence. We do.
It's gotten much worse in the last 20 or 30 years than what it was.
Fear and violence, which is a bad combination.
Yeah,
well, mixed in with 300 million guns.
You're right.
yeah, makes it a tiny bit more literally explosive. Yeah, no. I mean, we have a history of violence and how we took the West and slavery, and so that gets ingrained in a culture and it seeps down, right? And so I was reading about the Holocaust over the weekend a little bit. Man, it's so chilling when you hear some of the stories and the details. But there was this German industrialist. He was executive of a mining company, and he hated the Nazis. And he said it was like something like a brown poison, and it just seeped in everywhere. And the way that he described it, and he's like, and it just gets into the fucking culture, right? And then one day his kids came home in a Hitler Youth outfit because the school made them. He's like, fuck, right? And then, so now I'm going to tell this really gruesome story, just because it affected me so much, and we wound up here in the conversation, okay? In 1942, he was outside of Auschwitz. That's where the factory was. And Himmler comes to test out something for the first time. And they're like, and they tell him about it because he's one of the important businessmen of the area, yada, yada. And Himmler comes over and tells him about it. And Himmler, I don't know a lot about Nazi history. Until I was reading this book, I didn't know that he was like the number 2 guy in charge and oversaw the concentration camps and all that, right? And he was kind of like the bureaucrat. And he was, before the war, he was a chicken farmer and a fertilizer salesman. Like, watch out for those guys. You know what I'm saying? So when Trump starts bringing in like these like 2-bit guys who got a lot of resentment.
You mean
like right now?
Like right now?
Like right now, exactly. Anyway,
who were always kind to him.
Yeah. So they don't know why he's coming, and he comes in, and it turns out they were gonna test the first gas chambers. Okay? And fuck, I didn't know this. It took them 20 minutes to die. Okay? And they had built these giant concrete bunkers for the gas chambers because, of course, you don't want the gas to seep out, right? So, but you could still hear the screams. Then they would take the bodies out, and they would use them to, they would cremate them and use them to provide the heat for the camp. But the people in the camp knew that the heat was coming from their dead friends. Like, oh, Jesus, just when you thought, oh, I know how bad the Holocaust was. No, you don't. Okay. So this guy hears the story. He's like, gets on a train. He said, literally in this case, Auf Wiedersehen. Okay. Now, he's not leaving because he's got his family, he's got his kids there and everything, right? But he risks his life to get down on a train to Switzerland to tell someone, hey, they're burning people up there. You got to fucking do something. Invade us. Do something. They're killing all the Jews. All the stories are true, and this is what they're doing to them, right? So he tells a person connected to our State Department. The State Department, a lot of folks in the State Department didn't want to go to war / had business dealings with the Germans, and they bury the fucking story. One of the guys who did it was Alan Dulles. Alan Dulles winds up becoming the head of the CIA, and who, according to very solid evidence, might have been involved in killing JFK. Okay? So these sons of fucking bitches were inside our government. Okay? So he squelches it. And then, but thank God it eventually gets to Rabbi Wise in New York, who is a big ally and friend and helper of FDR. So now so they're supposed to take him a little bit more seriously, and does a big press conference in New York and explains this is what they're doing. And you know what happens? People are like, oh, yeah, the government didn't say it, so we don't believe it. You don't have any government sources, so we don't believe you. So we waited and waited and waited, and so all those people died.
We couldn't have stopped those deaths.
Yeah, that's a different.
We could have let in the refugee boats that were here instead of turning them away. But
yeah,
we couldn't have,
goddamn right.
we
could
couldn't
have done
have,
that.
we couldn't have stopped those deaths.